Everything went dark. The systems failed. The signal disappeared. And somehow, we weren't on our ships anymore. No commands. No control. Just the two of us. And a choice that shouldn't have existed. But if the signal was gone, then why did it feel like something was still waiting? This is where everything changes. If you want to see what happens next, don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story is just getting started. There are moments when your training fails you. Not because it's wrong, but because it doesn't apply. Standing there, in the dark, with no ship, no systems, no gravity indicators, no data, I realized I had just stepped into one of those moments. "Arlen," I said. No response. I turned. There was nothing to turn toward. No bridge. No consoles. No structure. Just space. Not vacuum. Not emptiness. Something else. A kind of absence that wasn't cold, wasn't hostile, just unfamiliar in a way that stripped context from everything I knew. And Emily Carter was standing 2 steps away from me. Not on a screen. Not through a projection. Physically there. Same expression. Same calm, focused eyes. Like this was inconvenient, but not impossible. "You heard me," she said quietly. "I did," I replied. "I just don't accept it yet." "Yeah," she nodded. I didn't either. I looked around again. There was still nothing. No stars. No ships. No sense of direction. Just us. "That's not possible," I said. "That's getting old," she replied. I almost reacted to that. Almost. Instead, I forced my attention back to the situation. Where is my crew? Not here. Where are the ships? Also not here. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Her tone wasn't defensive. Just direct. Practical. Like she had already moved past denial. "How long have you been here?" I asked. She hesitated. "I don't know." That was the first wrong answer she'd given. Or maybe the first honest one. Before I could press further, something shifted. Not in the environment. In perception. Like a layer peeled back. And suddenly, there was structure. Not physical. Not visible in a conventional sense. But present. Patterns. Connections. Lines that didn't exist, but could be followed. I felt my balance adjust. Not physically, but cognitively. Like my mind was trying to remap itself to something new. "You see it now," Emily said. I didn't answer. Because I did. And I didn't want to admit it. "This is what I meant," she continued. "Back there. The pattern." "It's not a pattern," I said slowly. "It is." "No," I corrected. "It's a system." She looked at me. And for the first time, she smiled. Small. Subtle. But real. "Yeah," she said. "That's a better word." I stepped forward. Or at least, I intended to. There was no ground. No distance. But I moved anyway. And the structure responded. Not shifting. Not changing. Just acknowledging. That was the only way I could describe it. "It's reacting," I said. "Not reacting," Emily replied. "Responding." "To what?" She looked at me. "To us." That was not acceptable. Not logical. Not something I could place inside any framework I trusted. And yet, everything around me supported it. "This is the anomaly," I said. "No." She shook her head. "This is what the anomaly was pointing to." I considered that. Then I rejected it. Then I reconsidered it again. Because it fit. Too well. "If this is a system," I said, "then it has purpose." "Yeah." "What is it?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer. Close enough that I could see the shift in her focus. Not outward anymore. On me. "You ever notice," she said, "how everything that went wrong still worked out?" "That's not accurate." "It is," she insisted. "The pilot who broke your patrol ship? He shouldn't have survived that maneuver." "He barely did." "But he did." I didn't respond. Because she wasn't wrong. "Your ship tried to disengage," she continued. "Didn't work. That was interference." "Was it?" she asked. I hesitated. Again. "And every time something failed," she said, quieter now, "something else compensated." That was also true. But I didn't like where she was going with it. "You're suggesting intention," I said. "I'm suggesting," she paused. "Alignment." "With what?" Her eyes held mine. "With outcomes." I felt something shift again. Not around us. Inside the conversation. Inside the logic. "This system," I said slowly, "does not control actions." "No. It influences them." "Yeah. It creates conditions." She nodded. "And then we decide," she finished. Silence. That matched everything. Too cleanly. Too precisely. Which meant it was either correct or dangerously close to it. And now? I asked. She glanced around. At the structure. At the impossible space we were standing in. It stopped guiding us, she said. Remember? I remember. It brought us here, and then it stopped. Yes. She stepped even closer. Not aggressively. Not cautiously. Just naturally. And now it's waiting. For a decision. Yeah. I exhaled slowly. This was the part my training didn't cover. Not because it was complex, but because it was personal. What decision? I asked. Emily didn't answer right away. Instead, she studied me. Not like an opponent. Not like a variable. Like a person. And that was new. You already know? She said finally. No, I replied. I don't. Yeah, she said softly. You do. You just don't like it. I felt that land. Not logically. Somewhere else. This entire situation, I said, has removed external control. Right. Removed structure. Yep. Removed authority. She smiled again. Now you're getting it. I held her gaze. And for the first time, I understood what she had meant earlier. It wasn't about the system, or the anomaly, or even the war. It was about choice. Unfiltered. Unmanaged. Uncontrolled. And suddenly, the realization was clear. Too clear. This doesn't end with strategy, I said. No. It ends with what we decide matters, she finished. Silence again. But different this time. Heavier. Closer. I looked at her. Really looked. Not as a human captain. Not as a variable in a conflict. Just her. And I realized something I hadn't accounted for. Something no system could model. Somewhere between the signal, the convergence, the conversations. She had stopped being external. And that changed everything. You felt it too, she said quietly. It wasn't a question, and I didn't deny it. That's not relevant, I said. She didn't move away. Yeah, she said. It is. I should have stepped back, created distance, reasserted control. I didn't, because there was no system here to support that decision. Only me and her, and the outcome we hadn't chosen yet. What happens, I asked, if we make the wrong choice? She considered that, then shook her head slightly. I don't think that's how this works. Explain. I think, she said slowly, the only wrong choice is not choosing. That made sense, which meant I didn't trust it. And yet, I couldn't dismiss it either. Because everything that had happened, every impossible outcome, every broken rule, had led here, to this moment, to this decision. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about the system, or the anomaly, or the war. I was thinking about her. And that was the problem. Or maybe, the point. There's a moment, right before something changes, where everything feels suspended. Not frozen. Just waiting. I stood there, looking at Emily, and for the first time since this began, there was no system guiding the next step. No anomaly nudging us forward. No invisible correction adjusting the path. Just silence. And the awareness that whatever happened next wouldn't be predicted. Say it, she said quietly. I frowned. Say what? The thing you're not saying. That's not helpful. It's honest. I exhaled slowly. Honest wasn't something I relied on in situations like this. Precision, structure, control, those were useful. Honest was unpredictable. I don't make decisions without data, I said. She nodded. Yeah, she replied. I figured. And right now, I continued, I don't have enough information to justify any outcome. She stepped closer. You've got all the information you're going to get. That's not acceptable. It doesn't need to be, she said. It just needs to be enough. I looked away from her for a moment. At the structure, if that's what it was. It hadn't changed. Still there. Still present. Still waiting. You trust this, I said. I don't, she replied immediately. I turned back. You've been following it. Yeah. That implies trust. No, she said. That implies I didn't have a better option. That. I understood. And now? I asked. She didn't hesitate this time. Now I do. I felt that land harder than it should have. Which is? She held my gaze. You. Silence. Not external. Internal. Because that answer wasn't strategic. Wasn't logical. Wasn't safe. You don't know me? I said. I know enough. That's not how this works. Maybe not where you're from, she said. But where I'm from. You work with what you've got. This is not a negotiation. I know, she said softly. That's why it matters. I should have shut that down. Redirected. Reasserted control. Instead, I asked, why me? She didn't answer right away. She studied me again, like she was verifying something. Not about the system. About me. Because you didn't pull back, she said. Back there. When you should have. That was a tactical delay. No, she said. That was you choosing not to walk away. That's interpretation. Yeah, she nodded. It is. I didn't like that. Because it wasn't wrong. And you followed it too, she added. That was forced. Was it? She asked. I paused. Because. No, not entirely. I had opportunities to disengage, I admitted. Exactly. And I didn't take them. Nope. We stood there. Not moving. Not advancing. Just acknowledging. This system, I said, forcing my focus back. It brought us here to evaluate a decision point. Yeah. And that decision influences the outcome of the conflict. Probably. Then the logical course of action is to minimize uncertainty. Which means what? She asked. I looked at her. And for the first time, the answer didn't come from training, or protocol, or strategy. It came from something else. Alignment, I said. She smiled slightly. Took you long enough. This is not agreement, I clarified. No, she said. It's better. How? Because it's a choice. That word again. Choice. Unfiltered. Unstructured. And suddenly, everything made sense. Not the anomaly. Not the system. But the outcomes. Every time something broke, we adapted. Every time something failed, we compensated. Not because we were told to, but because we chose to. This isn't about control, I said slowly. No, it's about compatibility. Her expression shifted. Not surprise. Recognition. Yeah, she said quietly. That sounds right. And the system doesn't decide anything, she finished. It just puts people in the same place and lets them figure it out. Silence again. But lighter now. Clearer. Because the question wasn't abstract anymore. It was immediate. What happens if we walk away? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Then nothing changes. And if we don't? She took a breath. Then everything does. I studied her. Not as an opponent. Not as a variable. Just her. And the realization settled in, steady and unavoidable. This wasn't about winning, or losing, or even ending the war. It was about what came after. And whether either of us was willing to step into that without guarantees. That's not a stable outcome, I said. No, she agreed. It's not. That carries risk. Yeah. I nodded once, acknowledging it, accepting it. And then, for the first time since this began, I made a decision without needing the system to validate it. Then we don't walk away, I said. She didn't respond immediately. She didn't need to. Because the moment the words left my mouth, the structure reacted. Not violently, not dramatically, just shifted, like a lock releasing, like a path opening. Around us, the space adjusted, the patterns realigned, not guiding, not forcing, just responding. Emily exhaled softly. There it is, she said. I didn't look away from her. Confirm, I said. She nodded. Yeah, that was it. What exactly did we just initiate? She gave a small, almost amused breath. No idea. That was not reassuring. And yet, I didn't feel the need to correct it. Because whatever this was, it wasn't something we were supposed to control. It was something we had already changed. And the realization came quietly. Not sudden. Not overwhelming. Just clear. This didn't start when we met. It didn't start with the anomaly, or the signal, or the war. It started the moment we both chose not to step away. And now, that choice had consequences. The structure shifted again. More pronounced this time. Light, if it could be called that, began to form. Not around us. Through us. And Emily. She didn't move away. Didn't break eye contact. Didn't hesitate. Neither did I. And for the first time, that felt like the right decision. Even without knowing what came next. The light didn't blind. It clarified. That was the first thing I understood as everything around us began to resolve. Not into something new, but into something that had always been there. Just hidden behind layers we hadn't known how to see. The structure wasn't disappearing. It was completing. The patterns that had felt abstract, distant, impossible to define, they aligned. Not into a shape. Not into a system I could diagram or control. Into a result. And then, we were back. The bridge reformed around me in a single, seamless moment. Consoles lit. Systems rebooted. The quiet hum of the ship returned like it had never left. Commander. Arlen's voice snapped into place, sharp and immediate. We lost you. No, wait. No, we didn't. What just? I didn't answer her. Because I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at the display. Emily's ship was still there. Same distance. Same position. Like nothing had happened. Except, everything had. Status, I said. My voice sounded normal. Controlled. Like it belonged to the version of me that existed before this. Arlen hesitated. All systems operational. No damage. No time discrepancy I can measure. Other ships. Gone, she said. Every contact we tracked just vanished from the grid. I nodded once. Of course they did. Because they weren't needed anymore. Open channel, I said. It connected instantly. No interference. No delay. Emily appeared on the screen again. Same posture. Same expression. But different. Subtly. Like she had seen the same thing I had. And reached the same conclusion. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was nothing urgent left to say. No signal, she said finally. Confirmed. No route adjustments. Confirmed. She exhaled. Not relief. Something quieter. Guess that's it, then. No, I said. She tilted her head slightly. No. I held her gaze. That was the intervention, I said. This is the outcome. She considered that. Then nodded. Yeah, she said. That sounds right. Behind me, Arlen shifted. Commander, what are our orders? I didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, there were no orders waiting. No protocol. No predefined response. Just the situation as it now existed. Stand down, I said. Arlen blinked. Stand down. Maintain position. No hostile actions. That contradicts. I know what it contradicts. Silence. Then, yes, Commander. I turned back to Emily. You're still in restricted space, I said. Yeah, she replied. By every standard we had before, this would escalate. Before, she repeated. Yes. She leaned back slightly, studying me. And now, I paused. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I was choosing it. Now, I said, we don't apply those standards. Her expression shifted. Not surprise. Recognition. That's a big decision, she said. Yes. You sure about it? No, I replied honestly. But it's the correct one. She smiled. Not wide. Not dramatic. Just real. Yeah, she said. That tracks. Another pause. Different this time. Not tension. Not uncertainty. Just space. The kind that doesn't need to be filled. You realize, she said after a moment, this doesn't end things cleanly. I'm aware. This is going to complicate everything. Yes. She nodded slowly. Good. I almost reacted to that. Almost. Instead, I let it settle. Because she wasn't wrong. This didn't resolve the conflict. Didn't finalize anything. Didn't create stability. It created possibility. And that was far more dangerous. And far more valuable. What happens next? She asked. I looked at her. Really looked. Not as a variable. Not as an anomaly. Just her. We continue, I said. With what? I considered that. Then answered. Without assuming limits. She laughed softly. Yeah, she said. That sounds like a problem. It is. And you're okay with that? No, I said. I'm choosing it anyway. That was the difference. Not certainty. Not control. Choice. She leaned forward slightly. Closer to the screen. You know, she said, where I'm from, this is usually the part where things either fall apart or get interesting. And which do you expect? She held my gaze. And for a second, the entire war, the anomaly, the system, none of it mattered. Interesting, she said. I nodded once. Agreed. Another pause. Then, Ryan. She said my name like it had always been there. Like it hadn't just been introduced in the middle of something impossible. Yes. You're going to get pushback on this. I know. From your people. Yes. From mine too. Expected. She exhaled. Then, still worth it? I didn't hesitate this time. Yes. She watched me for a second longer. Then nodded. Yeah, she said quietly. Same. The channel stayed open. Neither of us moved to close it. Neither of us needed to. Because whatever this was, it wasn't finished. It wasn't resolved. It wasn't defined. It was just started. Behind me, Arlen spoke again, more carefully this time. Commander, what do I log this as? I didn't look away from the screen. Log it, I said, as an unresolved event. She hesitated. That's not a standard classification. I'm aware. And the outcome? I allowed myself a small pause. Then, pending, I said. Emily smiled at that. Not because it was neat or satisfying, but because it was accurate. And for now, that was enough. We didn't say goodbye. We didn't close the channel. We didn't finalize anything. Her ship adjusted slightly. Mine did the same. Not guided. Not forced. Just aligned. And as the distance between us slowly shifted, not apart, not closer, just different, I realized something I hadn't expected. The anomaly hadn't ended. It had just changed form. And this time, it wasn't in the system. It wasn't in the signal. It wasn't even in the space between us. It was in the choice we had already made, and the ones we hadn't yet. And for the first time, I didn't need it to guide me anymore. And so, nothing really ended. No victory, only a choice that changed everything. Maybe it's not about control, but about the decision to act, even without answers. How do you like this format of stories? If you liked it, like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can change it at any time. Write in the comments what moment in the story impressed you the most. And would you like to change something in this story? See you in the next videos.